Welcome to the Learn the Word video course series on the subject of anxiety. My name is Paul Weaver, and I have the privilege of serving as the academic dean here at the Word of Life Bible Institute in Schroon Lake, New York. I have the privilege of introducing to you your professor for this course, Professor Joe Schenke. Professor Schenke is eminently qualified to instruct you on the subject of anxiety, both from a academic perspective as well as from his experience as a counselor, biblical counselor for over 30 years. He's been a biblical counselor first as a dean of students here at the Word of Life Bible Institute, and then as a pastor of biblical counseling in a local church, and most recently as the director of our Biblical Counseling Center here on our campus here at the Word of Life Bible Institute, where we provide this as a ministry to our students, a service to them, confidential service to them, and those in the community here. Professor Schenke is also leads our internship program, a biblical counseling internship program, and teaches for Davis College in the area of biblical counseling. Would you join with me as we listen in to the teaching of Professor Schenke on this very crucial subject of anxiety?
Hello everyone, my name is Joe Schenke. I'm the director of the Center for Biblical Counseling here at the Word of Life Bible Institute. And today we're going to be talking about anxiety, subtitled, When Concern Becomes Obsessive. You know, the impact of COVID-19 and the pandemic has had an unsettling effect on the social fabric of our culture. Along with the upheavals in society this past summer, we've witnessed probably more trauma in a person's lifetime than anyone of any age can ever remember. Every aspect of our culture has been impacted by the uncertainties of the future and what many call the new normal. Many people struggle with fear, anxiety, very specifically of all the unknowns with this virus, the loneliness of social isolation, and grief and frustration over the loss of valued activities or even the loss of life. But also anger. Anger has been common as well in what's happening in our society, the negative politics. The cases of anxiety and depression have increased many times over. In fact, so much so the CDC has officially expressed concerns even about people struggling with suicide. However, over time, I also believe the impact has become increasingly indirect as well. And in many cases, anxiety and depression people are already experiencing is further exacerbated by the way they seek means to find relief and escape, and sometimes making their personal suffering even worse. The need for Christ's comfort has been acutely apparent during this time. And in our perilous time of pandemic and social unrest, and with all the life disruptions, Jesus shines forth with hope and glory and love and power. The question and the challenge for us who desire to help other people is helping people make the connection with that. As counselors today, we share the same circumstantial fears, frustrations, and isolation as those we counsel. And we need the same Jesus we commend to others for ourselves as well. So this podcast, this time together is both for us as well as others that we seek to help. Our plan for the next 3 sessions is to answer one of the following questions in each one of our sessions. The first is, what is anxiety? And then the next session, what is the nature of anxiety? And then in the third session, how can we offer help? So let's get to it. Everyone feels anxious at times. And a certain level of anxiety is both normal and even helpful in some situations. Even in a pandemic, it's normal to feel anxious. What about those whose anxiety level fills their day and night? How can we distinguish between everyday anxiety, or what we might call normal concerns, and the more problematic anxiety? Well, you'll notice on the screen the diagram, the table that we set up for you. Everyday anxiety or problematic anxiety. How do we determine between each of those? Worrying about paying bills, for example, landing a job, perhaps a romantic breakup, or even an important life event. That's everyday anxiety. That's an everyday concern. However, when does it become problematic? Well, maybe the constraint and the unsubstantiated worry that causes significant distress and interferes with daily life. It's not just a part of daily life, now it becomes an interference. Maybe we can't do certain things, or we withdraw from certain things out of fear. And then, back to the normal side, there's embarrassment or self-consciousness with uncomfortable or awkward situations that we might face in a social kind of context. But then, when it becomes problematic is when we avoid social situations for fear of being judged or embarrassed or humiliated. Another normal example is a case of nerves or sweating before a big test, a presentation that you have to make publicly, a stage performance, or some kind of significant event. That's normal. However, it becomes abnormal when seemingly out of the blue panic attacks and a preoccupation with the fear of having another one. Something that's often referred to as triggers, where these triggers cause you to withdraw from normal activity, or the fear of triggers. In a normal setting, again, there might be the realistic fear of a dangerous object or a dangerous place or a situation. You have a little worry maybe going over that big bridge over the Hudson River. It's a little scary for you, but you do it anyway. That's normal. However, sometimes these fears can become irrational, and people just plain out avoid that object or that bridge per se. A place or situation that possesses really no threat or no danger now becomes something a person obsesses over. Now, all of us have anxiety or sadness or difficulty maybe sleeping certain times, the day before a big exam or a big event or something like that, or even after a traumatic event. Get into a car accident, we're still shaken up by that. Yeah, you're not going to get much sleep maybe for a period of time. That's normal. However, reoccurring nightmares, flashbacks, or emotional numbing related to a traumatic event that occurred a while ago, several months ago, or maybe within years ago, that's problematic anxiety. That's an example. So that's the comparison, the contrast between the normal everyday concerns and anxieties that we might have to navigate our way through as compared to those things that impact the way we're able to function. And I would say what makes anxiety concerning is the idea of our ability to function. Do we withdraw from the normal things, the normal challenges, the normal worries? Do we withdraw from that to a point where it impacts our ability to function in everyday life? That's when it becomes problematic. So what is anxiety? Well, anxiety is, we can describe it from a lot of different perspectives, but primarily because this is where we feel it the most. Anxiety is an emotion. It's an emotion, and it's a God-designed emotion for our good. Our emotions are good. Sometimes in Christian circles, we emotions are bad. No, emotions are part of the fact that we've been created in the image of God, in His likeness. In fact, God is an emotional being Himself, and being created in His image, He has given us the ability to express emotions. Emotions are an indispensable part of what it means to be human. Emotions play a crucial role in our relationships with God and others. Emotions function like smoke detectors. That's a good way of trying to understand what part they play. What does a smoke detector do? It alerts us to something so that we can be motivated to take action. If the smoke detector goes off in your heart, or really in your house, is what I meant to say. When a smoke detector goes off, it alerts you there's danger, there's something going on, take action. It could be that somebody just burnt the popcorn in the microwave, or something more serious, the furnace is caught on fire. Either way, you're to take action. And that's the idea behind our emotions and even behind anxiety. Anxiety is a good emotion. In fact, anxiety is also related to another emotion, and you might guess what that might be. That's fear. That's fear. Again, notice on the screen the distinction between fear and anxiety. Fear is an emotional response, but it's to an immediate threat and helps us to keep safe. Fear is more associated with fight or flight reaction, either staying to fight or leaving to escape danger. For example, if you step off the curb in a major city and to get ready to cross the street, and suddenly you notice to your left that there's a bus barreling down in the lane where you just stepped into. All of a sudden you can feel the fear, right? Your stomach churns. All of a sudden your body tightens up and you react to that and you jump back onto the curb, avoiding a dangerous situation. That is everything functioning the way God meant it to be. That fear was meant to protect you of immediate danger. Now you can imagine when something happens where that doesn't function correctly, like a soldier who suffers from PTSD because somehow he's unable to turn that fear mechanism off. He's used to the time of his tour dealing with combat and the dangers of combat and always on alert. Well, that alert button doesn't necessarily go off very easily. So now it malfunctions. But fear is something in the immediate. Anxiety, however, refers to the anticipation of a future concern. It can be a normal reaction to stress that alerts us to the dangers and helps us to pay attention and to form a plan on how we're going to do it. Again, anxiety is good because it motivates us. For example, you might feel a bit anxious about a pending assignment that you have, maybe as a student in school, maybe a presentation you have to make at work. But what that does, that causes you to prepare for that. So you study, you prepare for that presentation. Anxiety makes predictions of the future. There's a future threat to something I want or I have to do, or there's a future threat to something that I desire or that I love. If I don't study tonight, I will fail tomorrow. If I contract COVID, I might suffer or I might even die. What if my high-risk loved one contracts COVID? What if my political candidate doesn't get elected? What will happen to the country? What if the lockdown cripples the economy? What if I can't get out of my house? What if I can't see my friends? The what ifs present themselves as certainties. But what are the only but they're only projections of what might happen in the future. The problem is the what if becomes certainties. When a person begins to give in to the anxieties, when they're not able to process the anxieties that they're feeling in their mind just carries it over as though this is going to happen. Oh no, panic. I worry, I obsess over the what ifs. Jesus' own counsel on the subject gives us a great insight. He says, therefore, do not be anxious for tomorrow, the what if, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. You can't control tomorrow. You can't control the what if. Each day has enough trouble of its own. So Jesus' counsel is, think about today. Prepare for the what if. Don't let the what if carry on as though it is a certainty. Prepare yourself for what may happen. So we could define anxiety this way, right? We called it an emotion. So you'll notice up on the screen, anxiety is a good emotion, concern, focused on the wrong day, tomorrow. See, we get our focus on tomorrow of something we can't control, and it causes us not to function correctly for today. As we continue to move forward with this series, it's going to be helpful for us to remember the context, the greater context of anxiety in order to best help others and even ourselves. Dr. David Powlison reminds us that we are, first of all, physically embodied. Our anxieties that we deal with, we have to deal with physically. Therefore, our bodies may contribute to our predisposition towards anxiety. So always encourage counselees to get a medical checkup. What might be going on in their body that may contribute to the anxieties that they feel. And that's something, especially when the anxiety has become a part of their inability to function in everyday life. A medical doctor needs to determine if there's something physically going on. We're also socially embedded. We're all involved in relationships. Our family, social and cultural influences often play a part in these issues. So we want to explore personal histories, their relationships. Relationships can be part of the context of why people deal with anxiety. So get a lot of information. Family, relationships, people that they love, people that they're in conflict with, young people in particular. Relationships are very important. How they fit amongst their peers, especially when there's social isolation because of the way the lockdowns have had to been a part of our lifestyle. And then anxiety is also spiritually embattled. We have an enemy of our souls who can affect our bodies and our souls in ways we can't even quantify. So we alert the counselee to the realities of the spiritual battles or the spiritual warfare. And part of our counsel is to equip them to put on the armor of God, teaching them how to pray and receive support from others. And finally, we're sovereignly situated. Above and beyond these other influences, our Heavenly Father is affectionately ruling over all that impacts us and always working for our good. And if that be the case then, and it is, we need to encourage them to trust in His care as they work through these issues. So that's part one. What is anxiety? I look forward to joining you next time as we venture into part two. What is the nature of anxiety? What is at the heart of anxiety? Until then, God bless.
Thank you for joining us for this session on the subject of anxiety. I trust that it's been a blessing to you as you seek to learn how to handle anxiety that comes in your own life, as well as a blessing to you as you seek to minister to those who struggle with anxiety. I hope you'll join us again for the next two sessions, but until next time, make it your ambition to learn the Word.